Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. I'm your host, Dave Cameo, and I'm joined by Bridget, aka Punky Brewster, who you can find on ko-fi.com/Punky Brewster, PONKYBRUISETER. And today we're here to talk to you about House of the Dragon's 7th episode of its 2nd season, titled The Red Sowing of Dragonseeds, in parentheses. Because it's like they must have heard Sharon D. Because
she's been talking about Dragonseeds for weeks.
This episode is Dragonseeds because they don't show the episode title before the VOD comes out. And even when the VOD comes out, sometimes it just says episode 6 or episode 5 or 7. So it's like they heard Sharon D. said, nah, it's not Dragonseeds this episode. It's not this one either. And then they said, let's just F with her even more and go, the Red Sowing. And she's like, no, Dragonseeds. Damn, it's not in the title. And I felt like every time I brought that up, Sharon D got a little indignant too. It's like you saw her face and she's like, I don't appreciate you mocking me when I see dragons.
She didn't like it.
She didn't like it at all. She's not here to defend herself, so we can laugh at her. I'm just kidding. I'm not laughing. It's fine.
No.
Because this was a great episode, I think. What did you think?
Yeah, this was a great episode. I've realized over the last couple of weeks that there is a stark comparison to my desire to want to watch House of the Dragon versus watching The Boys when we're covering both. And I do prefer this show wholeheartely.
Even with the dreams at the time.
There's more to this that I'm engaged by.
Real.
It's less of that like, look at this, you get it? It's less of that slapsticky kind of element to it. Yeah, there's more mystery. It just seems deeper. I am a little peeved at you, Dave, because you got what you wanted.
Well, did I? So, well, we'll talk about that. If you've been listening on the audio podcast, I kind of made it very clear. And if you follow us on Twitter, made it even more clear that we'd stopped doing the post-watch live stream reactions because people weren't really coming on. And the whole purpose of it was for people to, other than us, to react to these episodes. And
they've been successful with other shows. This one just didn't engage the audience. So
that's precisely what I tried to make clear, is that this was a stark contrast. Even Better Call Saul. Do you remember those reaction episodes? Sometimes the chat would be just bip, 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 bip.
Those reactions were good. Dead City after was great. Those reactions were awesome. Those lives. It wasn't really going anywhere.
But here we are, and we're including our reactions and their feelings and facts for this episode.
This was a great episode. It had everything I like in an episode. It had dragons burning stuff, humor, women taking agency, Patty Considine. The cinematography was great. Like the shot where Rhaenyra reaches out to touch Vermithor and they show it from the side with them both silhouetted. Man, that was just a beautiful shot.
Well, and we'll get to this one feeling that I had. I was like, yes, Ulf got his dragon. And in exactly the way I thought he would too.
It's okay. I still got what I wanted. So we're both winners.
Yeah, I could tell when Hugh the Hammer went, come on! Bridget actually got pregnant. Actually, I'm talking about the Red Sowing.
And I might be infertile. So it's a miracle.
You have a clutch of eggs right now.
Maybe, yeah.
Like a dragon.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of memes about the dragon seeds. The scene where Ulf like steps on the dragon egg like a total ignoramus.
So let's focus on this for a hot sec, because I had a chance to actually look at what happened.
Did he even step on anything?
So it's a clutch of eggs.
Yeah, I know. There were several in there.
Right, exactly. But if you didn't have the right TV, or if you're watching on a tablet or a computer or whatever, you might not have caught it. You could see the different colored eggs and stuff. So it got me thinking, so we'd talked a big game about Pentos having Daenerys' eggs and all that stuff. But what if the eggs that Daenerys eventually gets are the ones that Ulf stepped on? So
maybe
it's possible. I mean, there's not much we can do or say about that currently because we'll never really know unless the next episode reveals something interesting about that, in contrast to what we had said in the episode where Joffrey and Viserys and Aegon, all of Rhaenyra's children, plus Rhaena, go off to the Vale. And we said, those 4 dragons, and one of them might be hers, or all that stuff. We don't know. One of the bigger high points to me was Daemon's surrender.
Yeah, that's fair.
He relinquishes his own pride for the goal.
It was interesting because Simon Strong being like,
staring at him every single time. He's like,
hell, he's going to blow off now. This is it. We're going to lose him. The whole thing's over. I was surprised.
I should put it this way. It feels like Sir Simon Strong is basically hand of the king consort at this point, because he's the most silent silent hand of the king consort, basically. But he got it. The first time Sir Simon Strong looks at Damon lengthwise, Damon's not registering it. But when Oscar mentions justice, they both end up looking at each other. And he's like, okay, I guess hand of the king is throwing me a glance. And I guess I got to do.
I have to say, this Tully kid has balls. I was shocked. He comes off as so timid and like, yeah, I'm young. I don't really know what I'm doing. And then just all of a sudden, he's out there like, these are our demands and this is what you're going to have to do. He's like a grifter.
He threads the needle so well because he's in the room with Damon having his private conversation. And he even refers to him as my king. Later on in this round table at the Heart Tree / the Godswood, he lets slip Prince. And then Damon has a reaction.
Watch your tongue, boy, or something like that.
Right. And then it was on purpose because the young Oscar Tully, Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, knows exactly who he needs to be in order to get what he wants. Because he has been paying attention to his grandsire for as much life as he has in his body to be able to pay attention. He says he doesn't have experience, but he's learning through other people's wisdom. And he must have seen people coming in and out of House Tully, basically, and people coming in and out with requests and demands for alleviating grievances and stuff like that. So he has been probably looking at this stuff all of his life.
Well, of course. Yeah, they're all trained up to do this as soon as they're over the age of 7 or whatever. It's like he hustled him, is what it feels. And that's what I was I was so impressed by. And I was like, okay, so he's young, but he is the rightful leader for this group. He's clearly capable, and he's capable of looking past the anger that these other leaders are feeling and being able to kind of come up with a compromise that's going to work for everybody so that he can get them in the position that he wants them to be in. And that is the sign of a great leader.
Right. And well, and he knows what his people are expecting of him.
Yes.
It's the only way he can provide the things that people need. Otherwise, you're just placating. No, he really does want peace in the Riverlands. So he knows exactly what he has to say. But he also wants to appeal to the Queen Regent.
Yeah.
Their fealty to Queen Rhaenyra. What a needle this guy's threading.
It's just the oaths, right? He's like, the oath was made by my grandfather. I am literally just stepping in. He knows, like, I'm just stepping in. I can't upset the apple cart as my first act. Right. I have to just go along with the word that was already promised.
Well, and having a foil like Damon to use as a backboard for every one of his shots.
God, I love that he was like, I don't like this guy. I was like, great, neither do I. Awesome.
I'm saying it to your face.
Thanks for saying it out loud.
And it's almost as, see, you know, it's funny because Damon gives him permission. He says, I don't need their love. I just need their fealty.
Yeah.
So then he goes, okay, you asked for it. Here we are.
Love that.
And he gave him exactly the reaction he needed too at the time when he said Prince. So it
was great.
I love that.
It just made Oscar look stronger to the people, which then kind of solidifies his role. So it really was like a symbiotic thing that happened.
Oh, yeah. Even though Damon almost lost it there.
I don't think Damon was fully like prepared for it. Like it was like, yeah, whatever. I don't need their love. But he does, though. He wants it. He does want it.
I think he's thinking, I don't need their love, but a little respect, a little honorific for me. I'm the king consort here.
His whole relationship is about being overlooked or not receiving the love that he feels like he deserves. This is another prime example of that.
Sort of. I feel like he is growing because he would have never, ever even said the words, I don't need their love. I just need their fealty. Look at the past episodes, past 3 episodes. It's him saying, you need to say the right things right now, according to what I say right now, or else somebody's getting beheaded.
The growth was made evident by his ability to swallow his tongue.
Yeah. And there's an additional thing. When he executes his swift justice, he does it swiftly and I feel robotically, almost as if it was a compulsion, almost as if he had no choice. You'll notice that in the way, not only his movements and the camera switches, but also the way the music kind of ratchets up to this weirwood music. And the vocals kind of mute out a little bit. He can't hear anything. He's just doing it.
I would say that he just went along with it because he knew he had to.
Right, on a surface level, I get that.
I've got to do this, so it is what it is. So he goes over to take care of it. But then they hold that shot on his face for like an uncomfortable amount of time. And he looks as though he is in pain.
Of course, Alice wasn't there, but Alice was there.
It's almost as if he's not in control, though.
Like this
too.
affected me in a way that I wasn't expecting it to affect me. I've killed arguably hundreds of men and it's never bothered me. Why did it bother me now?
Well, there's a reason for that particular thing. And that was for all Oscar Tully's words on oaths, he didn't swear an oath to Willem Black, but he made certain agreements.
Yes.
If you do this, you get this. If you do this, you get that. And so it pained him to have to revoke that oath.
Yeah. I mean, to Oscar's point, when he said, I agree, the king told you to do this, but you chose brutality.
Right.
Not
It's
because
the
you
way
had
did it.
to, but because you wanted to. And
Right.
there was a level of truth to that.
It's as if he was talking Damon's face, even though he was looking right at Willem Black.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you wanted to. So when you see him execute his swift justice, it's almost as if Damon wasn't there anymore. That's kind of what I was thinking. And they'll say the reason is because he is no longer him. I said some of this in the last episode. Part of Damon's shtick throughout this entire series, and it pairs well with him seeing Viserys right after that, the goat, and then going to the bedroom, seeing decrepit Viserys with the crown in his hand and seeing the weight of it. It was never about getting the crown. You just did what you wanted, whenever you wanted, the way you wanted.
Yeah.
It was never about the crown. You could say it's about getting the love from Viserys, getting the love from Rhaenyra, let's say even. But it was about living the way you wanted to. What Rhaenyra says in the last episode, that's what I admired about him. He just did whatever he wanted. I wished I could do that. But when you see him being compelled to enact swift justice, that's not him anymore. He's relinquished something.
Damon and Oscar were my favorite part of this episode. I loved watching Damon get kind of put in his place, especially by a kid. This kid has been raised with the oaths of the River Lords and to keep the honor of the River Lands. He is the personification of a leader, whereas Damon, obviously, is not. When Damon was like, watch your tongue, and he was like, do you want your army or not? And Damon had to back down. He had him by the tongue. I even like the dream because, again, we had Paddy Considine, the act of him handing Damon the crown and saying, do you still want it? And here is Damon having to realize that if he's going to wear the crown, if he's going to call himself king, then he's going to have to be accountable and do kingly things like kill Willem Blackwood, which he really didn't want to do, and to bite his tongue and take it when he has to. And that's something he never did when his brother was king, but that's because it was his brother.
Okay, so you're saying like he's a man transformed.
Yeah. Well, the best part about that is it's not 100% apparent unless you look closely like we're doing right now. You're seeing that first domino.
I could see that happening. I'm not 100% sold that that's the way it's going to go. But
that's why this is so good, because you're like, wait, what are we seeing right now?
Yeah. It's
and
different.
What will we see in the next episode as a result of this? Right. It's not his usual stick, which is, it's a stark contrast from every Daemon we've seen in every episode. It's like, I still can't figure this guy out. And now that I'm seeing this, I figured it out, but it's so different than what we're used to. I say all this knowing that I like it. I don't know what he was before, but he's definitely not that now. So I figured something out.
It was one of the most enjoyable scenes in the episode. So that has definitely changed. My opinion on that has changed, because prior to that, it was like anytime we panned over to Daemon, I was like, ugh, it's going to be another boring scene with some dream that doesn't make any damn sense and I don't care about it.
Yeah. And even though we still got a vision, it wasn't so bad.
Annoying. And then something happened right after. So it was like, oh, okay, great. I get action.
Yeah. It's not even that satisfying. Yes, the decapitated Willem Black. Yes. Willem Blackwood, I should say. But it's almost as if like, okay, that's not what he wanted. And maybe it's what I wanted, but the way it went down felt creepy.
Yeah. How many episodes are there? Are they only 8? Isn't it next week's really the last
next one is a season finale.
How?
For season 2.
Because
remember
this
the last episode of season 1?
All action. There was hardly any downtime. The only downtime that we're seeing is whatever the heck Alicent is doing in the woods.
Which is kind of cool because it allows us to take a breath, like Alicent is trying to take a breath.
Yeah.
So one of the things I noticed about this episode, let's just say there's one recurring theme. The ability to turn back, to step away, and choosing not to. The only one who steps away is Alicent.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until the very, very end when I was looking at the episode or Insider. It made it more clear that she's stepping away from the situation, unlike every single other person in this episode.
Well,
Adam didn't have to go to the shore and meet with Rhaenyra. Adam could have taken this thing for himself and done things. He pledges himself to Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra didn't have to throw all the dragon seeds into the fire. She could have stepped back. She could have not sacrificed their lives. She could have said, go back to your lives. You're putting yourselves in peril for me. But she went ahead. Even if she's right, there's something off about how that all went down. We want her to succeed, but it's Game of Thrones. Even if she succeeds, there's still that element of, how did I get to succeed? Well, I threw a bunch of bodies at something, which is a lot like what Aemon's doing right now. We forgot about Criston Cole and Gwaine. And Gwaine's tear during that episode, which we highlighted.
True. And Aemond went full force running almost nearly into battle and then was like, whoa, let me keep a level head. So he did step back to some degree, but just at the very last second.
Right.
And
he turned back.
Aegon no longer has the option of stepping back. It's been stripped away from him because Larys is like, he can't rest from now on. He doesn't even have the option to.
He doesn't even have the option to turn it back.
No.
He's like literally telling them, no, please, no. Like when Larys is scooping himself underneath him, he's like, get away from me. Get away from me. I don't want this anymore. He has literally no agency.
No.
That's all we've been talking about this entire series. It's literally irony, not iron rod, where we were talking about women in society having little to no agency, and yet Game of Thrones shows a way in which, well, they do, but that's society for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the interesting people on the show exhibit agency. Miss Arya made herself a lady somehow. Well, not really. That was more Jace mocking her. But you get the idea. She's risen to this position of status. The Dragonseeds have a higher status. And much to Bartimus Celtigard, who has gotten more brazen after getting that slap in the last episode, he's like putting the cup down forcefully. He's like, come on, commoners as dragon riders, turn them back. Are they trying to steal the crown? What is happening here? He's getting a little bit more outspoken.
I want to go into that, but I want to go back to this thread of the not being able to turn back.
Stepping back.
Because the same thing happens for Ulf and Hugh the Hammer. So Hugh makes the conscious decision, I will not step back. I already lost my daughter to this. I stepped back for too long. I asked the king for money in advance. He didn't give it to me. I let it slide. And I'm no longer stepping back.
But the whole point of having the conversation with Kat is to illustrate there's nothing to fight for anymore. Our daughter is dead. Did you catch that?
That's what it was, yeah. They're using the past tense. She's gone.
And she even says, I don't want to be a widower. I lost my daughter. I don't want to lose you too. He could have stepped back and it would have been fine. And I would have been fine because that's a lot to ask for somebody.
But I'm saying him as a person, he's at his wit's end. He's saying he doesn't have another option. This is my only choice.
That's the thing. He does.
But you know how it is when you're going through something really tough. Sometimes it feels the other option just isn't. It would be you just giving up. Yeah.
How do you go back? Let me just speak as a man. It would be very difficult for me to turn back knowing what I've lost. And the suicidal part of what sometimes men will do in order to reach a goal.
I think that's part of it, the danger that comes along with it. And if I die, well, at least I died trying to do something for my family.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm talking about. It's worth the risk.
When it's compared to, I have nothing now, but I could have everything that I've ever wanted. But
it's not even about that for him, right?
No, it's really not. It's not. It's more like a death wish kind of.
It's a death wish, for sure. Come on, he's yelling at the dragon, man.
I know.
Get on with it.
Ulf, Dave's favorite, my least
because
favorite.
I see myself in him. He's everybody.
He doesn't have an option to back out because he literally runs himself into a corner.
Verbally and literally.
Physically.
It's not lost on me. Didn't he say, Ulf, where's your spark? Where's your ember? Who says it? The guy next to him, he's like...
At the bar, yeah.
Are you all embers, no fire? That sort of thing.
Yep.
That whole situation was very uncomfortable to watch, though, too. Because the reason why I like Ulf so much, even in comparison to Hugh, because Hugh is very, very nice to look at. I will acknowledge that. And there's that honor and everything you will like about a man in Hugh. On the other hand, I like Ulf because I identify with Ulf, and maybe this is a personal thing, a personal bias, because he lives to make the common folk feel better. You're at the end of a hard day, you're starving even, let's say, and he's run out of jokes by the time the last episode rolls around. He's like, fish stew, I can't even make a joke about this anymore.
Yeah.
But he goes in there every night Everybody's working really hard every day to feed themselves and exist. He gets into that bar in that one episode with the long shot coming up from the top and the coins are passing hands and all that stuff. He gets into the bar. Everybody loves seeing him. Everybody wants to hear Ulf's next story. He's buying this person around. He's making toasts and everybody acknowledges it. He's making people's lives a little easier. And so I identify with that. I love that idea that maybe I could be the same. But unfortunately, he's talked himself a big game about him being this Targaryen bastard, the long lost brother of Viserys and Daemon. And so it's time to pay the piper. And you know what? I would react the same way. I don't want to draw too much attention to myself. This is just for the common folk.
I can't blame him, right? Like, okay, so for instance, my grandmother was cousins with Maureen O'Hara, Irish-American actress, very famous. That's a big deal in my family, and it's been proven now in genealogy. But kind of it was always one of those things that you were like, yeah, I'm related to Maureen O'Hara, and then you're like, oh, maybe I'm not. Like, maybe you're not really, though. You know what I mean?
Right. And even if you are, so what? You are where you are right now.
You know, yeah, I'm living in a box in the woods. But something about that makes you feel like it elevates your station. So I feel special. I do get where it comes from. So I love that hesitancy at this point where it's like, this really cool thing could happen for you if what you're saying is absolutely 100% true. And he's like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just what I was told because my mother was a dreamer. Or maybe it's just what I told myself because it made my life easier to get through or whatever.
Right. Exactly that. That's what makes Jace's conversation with Rhaenyra a lot more significant if you really think about it, because he's basically saying to his mom, if this is true, what makes me special now? Because I know I'm a bastard. And these people are all bastards. What about me? I'm your son.
He feels like she's putting his birthright on the line.
Right. And look, it is history repeating itself if that is true, because Viserys wanted Rhaenyra as the heir, and it was still put into question. So having it be a bastard puts it even more in question. Aemon feels the same way, I think, too. It's a very slight comparison that the showrunners made in the episode of Insider. The fact that there's a dragon flying around King's Landing and it's not his, he does not like that. The thing that made me special is I have this big dragon. Without it, or the question of the fact that somebody is flying around King's Landing and it's not me, that makes me less special. I love how the dragons are almost like the feelings of the character. It was hard for him to turn Vhagar back because that's his feelings.
Vhagar was pissed.
His feelings were almost outpacing his actual rationale. It's literally, I've said this a couple times, it's literally the analogy of the elephant and the rider. Your biases, your emotions, those are big things. They are a part of you. You are a logical and rational being, but you are held hostage by your emotions and biases. That is 100% true. You can discipline yourself. You can train that elephant, but it's always there. And so Aemon, bless his heart, he pulled back, but it wasn't looking so good for a hot sec. You could see him struggling to pull Vhagar back. Usually it's just, hey, do this, and Vhagar does it. He's been telling Vhagar, turn back, turn back, turn back. Then he's physically pulling him back. Her back. It's a she.
Aemon realizing that there were more dragons on Dragonstone. I think this coming week is going to be, if what I think is going to happen happens.
Let me give Sharon D deference, because in the subtitles, as one of the Dragonseeds are screaming, it says Dragonseed : and then
See, and I thought
so
Dragonseeds were the eggs.
Well, that's why they call them Dragonseeds, because they're the bastards of
the Targaryens.
So just to give Sharon D deference, it's a real thing that they actually made clear in the subtitles. So
okay.
Then it said commoner. So,
yes.
I don't know.
Also that.
In my view of the books, word got out that they were looking for the dragon seeds. Various people who thought they had Targaryen blood would go to the Dragonmont and try to ride the dragons, or to Sheep Stealer, because Sheep Stealer in the books is on the Dragonmont. All of the dragons are on the Dragonmont except for Vhagar, and the other dragons are the Greens, who are in the Dragon Pit. pit in King's Landing. Now we've got some at the Vale, Sheep Stealer, and it looks like they're not going to introduce Cannibal and Ghost in the series. In the books, nobody ever tamed them anyway. I'm not sure why they went with the whole group, Rhaenyra throwing the whole group in there instead of at least having them go one at a time. It was more exciting this way. Ulf getting knocked into the pit and Hugh Hammer getting knocked into the pit and all that.
We get these boatloads of people coming over at their hopes and dreams. They're all hoping they're going to get to ride a dragon and be oh so cool. One, props to the guy who looked like the kid from Mask that was like the bravest soul.
I'm going to see if I can pull up an image of his face on the show and his face in real life. I want to see what they did to it, if anything. And if they didn't, hey, props for putting yourself out there. But yeah, that was really cool that they focused on that one guy.
He's like, well, I got nothing to lose. Sure, his life probably hasn't been great. He's a bastard. He looked like that. I'm sure there were things that were said about him. It's much like what we see with Tyrion Lannister. When you're different in that world, what does that look like for you? Not great, usually.
Right. So you're not only are you on the bottom rung, but you look like that.
Yes, unfortunately. And then also triggering the absolute, you would say bloodbath, but there was no blood to be seen because everything was on fire. So,
right. Well, do you think that he was placed there to make you feel something when all this happens? Because yes, Rhaenyra gets what she wants, but then you focus on that one memorable face. And then you realize,
I think it was to some degree to be like, it's not going to work again. So you would be like, okay, well then what makes Adam different? Why did the dragon go find him? What is going on here? If we're to believe that he's closer to the bloodline, these people are maybe direct descendants and they're not getting anything. What is happening? I think it had to fail first to make this part more impactful. Then we're down on the ground. They're like in the dragon pit, all of these people, because they're just like fleeing. And the guards would not let them go back into the castle, back into Dragonstone. They've like got to go down.
It looks like some of them slipped past them, by the way.
I think
make
so.
that clear. It's a little overwhelming. I don't blame him.
Ulf falls into the dragon pit in just classic Ulf fashion, because how else would he end up down there?
That made it so much more satisfying.
And then, Hugh the Hammer ends up down there. And this is the part I absolutely adored, when he's with this woman and they're hiding behind the rock and she like screams and he's just like, no, just stay here. He stares at her, locks eyes with her for a moment. I sat with that and I was like, I wonder if in this moment, because we finally get his backstory for how is he a Targaryen bastard? We assume that he is, but how did it happen? And we find out it's the opposite of what you would think it was. His mother, she must not be the Targaryen bastard. She must have been a Targaryen.
Well, she could have been a bastard.
But most likely she wasn't. So it's a little bit weird that she ended up where she did.
In a brothel.
In a brothel. So she's not living a highborn life for someone who was highborn, which is interesting. And I think there is some part of it that's like, well, if she's there, was she lying to herself and her son? To say like, I am a Targaryen and you look just like my brothers and, you know, my brothers are doing this. And is that part of it, you know? And there must have been some element of that for Hugh. Is she really telling the truth or is this just... Now he says, I knew my mother. Part of me thinks, was this some sort of incestuous thing that wasn't approved of at the time? And so is that how Hugh came to be? And did they want her to like get rid of him? And she disagreed. And so that's how she ends up kind of down and out. I don't know.
I don't think the Targaryens have a problem with incest, just so you know.
No, but I was trying to think of like at that time, would it have been like against the religion or... I don't know, because it was long.
I don't think it got boundaries. What I will say is why it's so great that you get both backstories for Ulf and Hugh is that they're so different.
Yes.
Ulf himself is the bastard of Balon the Brave. Just to give you a picture, Balon the Brave is Viserys' and Daemon's father. That makes him the brother of Viserys and Daemon, the bastard brother.
Correct.
It's Hugh's mom that is the sister of Daemon and Viserys. So, correct. But look at the ages of these characters. Now, Hugh does look a little younger than Ulf, to my estimation.
I would say roughly they're probably around the same age.
Which means Balon the Brave has been
busy.
Balon
the Busy is what his name should have been.
He's been implanting many a dragon seed in a dragon egg, or like a regular egg.
What's wild about all of this is the fear that Rhaenyra's advisors have about these people trying to claim the throne could be a viable fear. They have as much of a right to the throne as you do. Now they don't, because she was declared heir by Viserys. But if we're looking at the line, she would have to die for one of them to then.
Well, but this is Jace's
Because it would
concern.
go back.
Right. If she won, you'd have all these people in the running for heir to the throne.
Correct.
Adam is definitely not. They could try to trace back his lineage by word, and they could interview people in Driftmark and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
But we know that he's not. The most he can get is to become Lord of Driftmark, essentially.
Yes.
That's about it. But these Dragonseeds, these silver-haired, probably direct lines of both. Well, let's just say Balon, right? And maybe Daemon. And Balon got busy for decades upon decades to produce that age gap between Daemon and Viserys, for starters. And then you see the same age of Ulf and Hugh. That's so, wow, Targaryens.
Okay. So Hugh was at this stone, right, in the dragon pit. He's with this woman and he looks over at her. And I'm like, why are they kind of like holding on this look that he's giving her? And I thought to myself,
I know where this is going.
Does he see his mom in this woman living this lowborn life, is Targaryen? Not only that, but also the fact that he lost his daughter, was having this fight with his wife. He's obviously like a man in the most traditional sense of the word, as in he is the provider for his family and he is the protector of the women in his family. You can think whatever you want. I think that there's something noble about that. It's why chivalry is a desired trait amongst some women. I tend to appreciate those qualities in people.
Most women.
Yes. I enjoy chivalry. I think it's nice. You can have your own thoughts about it.
I enjoy providing chivalry.
You think it's dead? That's your opinion. My husband is chivalrous. I appreciate that about him. Anyway, so I felt like he connected with this woman thinking, this looks like my mother, and I maybe was too young to protect my mother. She worked in a pretty dangerous line of work. I don't remember when he said that she died, but she wasn't around for much of his life. And then he hid who she was from other people because he was ashamed of it.
Well, and probably left the home in a huff.
Yeah.
Sick of being under that shame.
So you see that for that split second, and then the woman runs and the dragon is chasing after her. And that's when he's like, I can do this now. I can save her.
Right,
And
I couldn't save my mom. I couldn't save my daughter. I can save this woman. It's like finding God in the foxhole, right? That's the whole idea. You find out your true feelings when you're faced under mortal peril.
yes, I go to Bible study with someone who's ex-military, and he says the saying is, there are no atheists in foxholes. It's a good juxtaposition against Ulf, because Ulf is the more timid, more fearful, kind of afraid what people will think of him. He's the audience insert into the story.
He's the avatar for us,
Yes,
basically.
correct.
We talk a big game, but
Correct.
when it comes down to it,
But
this is how we are. Which is why everybody hates Ulf.
Much like
Bridget.
I say, everyone's a Peter when we all want to be Pauls. Everyone is an Ulf, even though we all want to be Hugh.
Exactly.
Because
But
Hugh
everybody
did the right
sees
thing.
themselves
And
as
Hugh
Hugh.
did such a beautiful thing in that moment. Oh my goodness. That was the moment. I was like,
That I got pregnant. I got it.
yes, Hugh, I've loved you. I've loved you for an eternity. I'll love you forever. I was so
All right,
excited.
let's mark the time 9 months from now. If Bridget has a silver-haired child, we'll know why. Or triplets.
I was so excited in that
clutch.
moment because I was like, okay, he's doing the right thing. He's being brave. This can go one of two ways. This can go classic George R.
Game
R.
of
Martin,
Thrones.
and it could absolutely break my heart. Probably Hugh will die. I'm willing to accept this. But instead, what happened was he was able to get the dragon, and I was so excited. And I assumed when Ulf ran away, I was like, he's also going to get a dragon because that's the opposite of this.
There was a moment where I thought, this is how he gets it. Especially after stepping in that clutch of eggs.
That I was like, dude, you made a mistake.
Yeah, he made
Also,
all the wrong
why are you walking
moves.
right towards a dragon? You don't see that dragon? Are you dumb?
Well, it was very, very dark. And I would have thought, oh, these are steps leading out.
Yeah.
I was watching at the time being like, okay, this is probably what he's thinking. Oh, there's my way out. There's some steps leading up to the entrance. Okay. This is what made me think it might be over for him, is because he did all the wrong things that people assumed. Rhaenyra, everybody, don't be afraid. Walk up with confidence. He stepped in the dragon clutch. He didn't break any eggs. He just broke the exterior of the clutch, the
That's what I
placenta,
thought.
if you will, which it's not apparent. So here's what I was thinking. Now, could this be perilous for Ulf later on? Because maybe the dragon's just like, oh, it's one of mine. He has the stink of the babies on him. So I'm going to treat him.
Interesting.
I'm not saying it's that.
Yeah.
I'm saying it could be that. The showrunners themselves said the reason why we made Ulf's discovery as a dragon rider this way is to throw everything you think you know about what entails or what makes a dragon rider a thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want you to know exactly what it takes.
Yeah.
I say this with the utmost humility. The only thing I can say for certain is what I said in the last episode. Maybe the dragons have a connection to the fates. They get an instinct or an inclination from some sort of higher power that they're not fully aware of. And the truth is, that is 100% true. Do you know why? The fates of the riders. We can do whatever we want because these dragons are solved for X. They're not something that we have enough data to be able to solve. And there never will be. And you know what? That's the one thing in Game of Thrones that I'm on the fence about, because there was one thing that I like playing with, but is a little frustrating, and that's Spooky Beta S. Spooky Beta SHIT, to make that clear. And that is when you introduce something that is unexplainable. How is it that Beta in The Walking Dead could know that somebody was hiding behind a wagon in real life? Meanwhile, a walker is talking to him saying, he's behind a wagon.
And you're like, how did he know that?
Oh, he must have saw him from the corner of his eye. No, he didn't. His back was turned. Unexplainable. Anyway, that's what this is. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. Well, I'm okay with that with Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon because that's not the point. The point of this show is to not explain that, but to focus on the human dynamic. It's the same thing with The Walking Dead. But The Walking Dead played with that mechanic a little too much, and he just went a little too far with Beta with me. It's like, okay, now you're going into a realm that isn't what the show is. The show isn't mystical. Let me focus on this one thing. The resting disgust face on Lady Jane Eyre of the Vale. It just stuck in my craw when Rhaena was leaving the Vale and Lady Jane Eyre's at the door. She's looking on at Rhaena, and then it focuses on her face and it's disgust. Something about it bothered me.
I don't really get it.
I totally get it. She hosted these kids, didn't get what she wanted.
Oh, she sucks.
Rhaena is fully aware of that.
She sucks. Whoever's living there is always going to suck. It's just the rule of thumb for that place.
Yeah.
Oh, you live in the Eyrie? You must suck.
You're in the Eyrie? Oh, you're awful.
Yeah. You're weird. You're like breastfeeding your 13-year-old or your Littlefinger.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So either way, you suck. And you're kissing 13-year-olds. So it's like either way, you're the worst.
So that got me thinking, though, because I feel like this lady is not one note. I feel like she's looking at her to compel her to get that dragon.
Maybe. Because she might feel like if you get the dragon, then you can be here and then I'll have a dragon protecting my space. That isn't a baby. Because even though you gave me dragons, I'm going to complain about it.
Well, I feel like if she gets what she wants, she'll be pleased. There is a theme here that gets repeated. Jace saying, what makes me so special? And Rhaena's feeling the same thing. There's nothing special about me. And Lady Jane Eyre is giving her the face that says, there is nothing special about you. I wanted a dragon. This was a waste of time. I just made the queen happy and I am disappointed. And even though I can't probably say that to your face because it'll get back to her, I'm going to make it very clear by the way I'm looking at you right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it works on Rhaena because it motivates her to do the thing that is a little scary because she's tried it once before.
She was 4 and 10 and she almost died.
Yeah. I'm not 100% convinced this is her actual resting bee face, but more like a tactic.
Maybe. I didn't really get it. The whole thing, I was like, that was weird. And then we hardly hung on to that scene too. So it was like, zoom.
That was most of what that scene was hinging on, was her resting bee face.
We're out of here. We don't care about what happens here yet. You don't need to know. You'll find out next episode. Or maybe you won't find out at all this season.
Right. You know, the best part about that is she'll get the dragon and leave the Eyrie.
Obviously.
Like,
duh.
Peace. Well, yeah, because I mean, that's what she's expected to do. She's expected. Well, the audience expects her to leave, but what is expected of her is to get the dragon and keep the Eyrie safe. But that's not going to happen. Thanks for your resting bee phase, Lady Jane Eyre.
Because if she gets the dragon, she's going to go back to fight for Rhaenyra.
And let's be perfectly honest. They got what they wanted, which was a respite between Ven and Pentos. Peace out the Vale. You could have been a little nicer and I would have stayed, but boom, Rhaenyra needs me. Oh, I gotta go. I'm so sorry.
And you've been a real bee
sorry.
this whole time.
Maybe if you were a little nicer, I would have stayed.
Maybe don't
But
tell
now-
me that my grandmother is dead just like in casual conversation.
Yeah. Fire and blood, bitch. Bye. I don't know why I said bee all this whole time. I could say bitch.
No.
But bee is funnier.
It is. I like
Actually,
it.
that's why I say it. Has seeing Alicent the way she is this episode softened you to her a little
No.
bit? Not even a little bit, because I was thinking of you
Nope.
in this moment.
Were you?
Actually,
Why?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because she is doing what you want to do when it comes to the daily routine. And maybe that's privilege. She can do whatever she wants. She has a personal bodyguard.
I sure do wish I could be swimming in a lake every day. You're right.
Yeah, and have no responsibilities. Well, nobody wants anything from you at that point. So there is a catch-22.
Mhm.
Well, you have no function.
Yeah, it seems like a real dream, but she does have
It seems like
responsibility. So,
What responsibility does she have? All her children hate her,
well,
including
that's
Aegon.
fair. I mean, yeah.
Aemon basically kicked her off the council.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Daron is in Old Town according to Otto's instruction. Gwaine is probably marching towards death,
And her
which
lover
is kind of a kick in the teeth.
in the wind.
Is probably also
Yeah,
going to
marching
die.
to death. I'm jealous of it because, like, wasn't that scene beautiful when she's just like laying in the water? And I was like, yeah, man, I wish that was me right now. But no, you reap what you sow.
Maybe the jealousy is the fact that she is able to do that. So she's
Maybe.
like, she's not endearing me to herself.
Yeah, now I'm just mad that you got to do that. I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
So Rickard is probably a Stark. Rickard seems to be a Starky type name. That was Ned's father. Alicent is realizing that she doesn't want the weight of the crown anymore. The whole thing has been, do you really want to bear the weight of the crown? Even Kriston said to her a couple of episodes ago when he was like, I'm trying to protect you from the hard, terrible things that you have to do as a leader. And yes, you led the Seven Kingdoms when Viserys was ill. You basically wore the crown, but that was when you didn't have to do terrible things. And now you're going to have to do terrible things to keep the crown. She finally realized that after being kicked off the council and being useless to anybody now, she now has the freedom that she always wanted, the freedom that she was jealous of Rhaenyra for. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra is fighting to keep the burden of the crown.
I'm not going to say that endeared me to her. I do sense the human moment in having no purpose.
Sure.
Having nobody want
I get
you.
that. I've lived it. Hell, even now, I'm constantly praying for clarity because I'm like, what am I even supposed to be doing with my life right now?
That pairs with Jace a little bit too. Well, what is my purpose if you're taking it away from me? I mean, it's a feeling.
Yeah.
It's not the reality. And even that transposes to Alicent very well. So you can do a lot. You just don't see that you can. And I will make it very clear that the showrunners say in that moment where she turns back, she does have a renewed sense of purpose. We don't know what that purpose is, but she's going to come back at least and figure things out. She's going to try to do something. Now, this may go back to what Sharondy said about Helena saying, I forgive you, meaning you're going to do something. And it's going to be something that is maybe unforgivable. And so I thought to myself, the thing she says to Orwyle when he's treating her cut, she says something to the effect of, you work so hard to raise kids. I did all the things my father wanted. Ergo facto sum for the good of the realm. And what do we get? I get cut on the arm. I get mobbed. I get told I'm the queen of fishes. I almost die.
Yeah.
My daughter almost dies with me. And so she's adrift. And I think every one of us feels that sometimes, that the things that we're doing may not be as meaningful or purposeful as we would like them to be.
Sure.
And so I get that feeling. In particular with Alicent, she's given up so much. Yes, you get the perks, but she's given up her agency for somebody else's designs.
What do you think she's going to do when she comes back? Because I have a theory in my head right now based on what you said.
So he says, and this happens in succession, and I think they pair well because narratively that makes a lot of sense. He goes, and this is in this order, he says, you will have a scar, but it is easily hidden. He says this after she says what she says. So it's almost as if he's giving her the answer. Maybe you'll have to make a sacrifice that on the face of things is reprehensible. The true meaning of your sacrifice will be hidden from everybody, which is maybe what we're referring to when Sharondy says she's forgiving her in advance because she sees all. I'm forgiving you in advance because I know why you did that.
What do you think it is that she does then?
I have no idea.
Okay.
No idea.
Okay.
But you're thinking...
You know I hate a theory, but I'll throw it out there.
I'm going to play Kreskin right now.
Okay.
You're thinking she kills Aemond.
Yes! That's exactly what I was thinking.
Do you know how I know you get this face sometimes? Like,
I didn't even say, I didn't mouth it even. Sometimes I do.
I know, but like I felt it in your brain. It just popped out at me. It's hard to believe that she will.
She might view it as the only option. She doesn't want him there. He's too cruel. He's beyond reasoning. He's beyond control.
Well, and let's put it this way, because it's also mentioned in the small council where she is not, that as much progress as the Hightowers are making against, or as little progress as they're making against the Beesbury house, it's not working because there are forces beset on Old Town from both sides. Similar to Harrenhal, the plan for Harrenhal, to have Jason Lannister on one side and the people from King's Landing on the other side, Criston and Gwaine, Jason Lannister and the Leffords. Very similar situation. Alicent may be thinking, if she hears this news, well, my father is all but dead. He's not answering me. It's up to me. And what is the good of the realm? I am my father's daughter. I'm the favorite. What good is all of these designs that he planned for me if I'm not going to continue executing his ideal? If it's exactly like he said it was, if it is for the good of the realm, then I have a responsibility. So maybe in her hearing all this bad news, knowing that she has nothing to lose because nobody loves her anymore. We talk about Daemon needing the love, but in Alicent losing it all. Because Daemon could go back, again, turning back. There's always an opportunity to turn back. Daemon could just turn back right now, go back to Rhaenyra, and she would love him again. They would love each other, and that'd be fine on the surface. Who knows? Alicent's got none of that. It's too late for her on so many fronts, no matter how much she's lost. Heading back to Dragonstone for a hot sec. Jace is not happy by the end of his conversation with Rhaenyra, shakes his head and storms off. After that is when the Dragonseeds scene happens, where all these Dragonseeds get slaughtered. No, I had a thought in the back of my head that as horrible as this was, and as horrible as I think Rhaenyra knew because of experience this could be, maybe this was her way of saying, Jace, I'm up here on this balcony, again, up high, because I'm highborn, literal, looking down on the lowborn down there, being burned to death. Is this not enough for you? Do you not see? That thought occurred to me, that just to illustrate visually that, Jace, you got nothing to worry about, buddy. This is really the world. Women have no agency, and highborn are up here and lowborns are down there. Adam could have chosen personal ambition and done things for himself with this dragon. All he wanted to do was serve, surprisingly.
Well, because I think to the highborn, they're like, oh, they take an inch, then they're going to take a mile. But to these lowborn people, they're just like, this is it. If I could just shoot for anything in the world, it would be this one thing.
I will give you everything.
I don't even think it's on their minds to be like ruler. Why would they want that responsibility? They've already lived these like horrifically tragic lives. Why would they want to add that onto it?
Yeah, and in the case with Adam and Alan, their lives haven't been that bad. They've made something of themselves. It's illustrated in Corliss's, and we'll get to that, Corliss's reaction. But even then, to them, status like that, opportunity like that is almost extremely hard to come by unless you're willing to do dastardly deeds, which to a commoner wouldn't occur to them unless to other commoners. I'd never do that to a lord or lady or a sir. It's unseemly. Society makes it so that if I did, there would be a, to us, incongruent reaction. If you even look at a lady or lord or sir a certain way, you would reap a punishment. And this goes to what Sharon D said about being in court. These people are always watching their backs for the winds to change. Rhaenyra, having been denied her queenship when it was appointed by the king, which is what Miss Arya kind of hits on. Of course, it wouldn't have occurred to you because highborns stabbed you in the back. But this goes to a larger point. When you're in court, you got to watch your back. You have to make all the right moves. Oscar Tully illustrates this very well in this episode of what it takes to keep these houses in check. The politics, the moves, the things to say, when to say them, how to say them, maybe appearing to say things one way to one person and then another way to another person. All of this to say is that when you look at the commoners, yes, they may do that to themselves or to each other, but they would never do it the other way around. They know that this is an opportunity that never comes. And so they're just glad to have it. And you can even see it with Bartimus Celtigar. He's just being very brazen because he's allowed to. Nobody's putting him in check. Mm-hmm. And why would they? Because he is a highborn. He's a lord. He's to be respected. And it doesn't even occur to them that a commoner, everybody's like that. Everybody's in their bubble is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And so it wouldn't even occur to them that they wouldn't be the same. The commoners wouldn't be the same. Well, what if they reach for the stars? Now, like you said earlier, in principle, Jace is right. On paper, Jace is right. That we should adhere to certain principles. Because if you set a precedent, then who's to say down the line that precedent doesn't bite you in the ass? And technically, that's kind of true.
Yeah, and maybe it does.
I also felt for Jace quite a bit. I understand where he's coming from. That's what this whole thing of succession is about, because he was considered a bastard. The woman part of it is something too, but that's something they've used against them is, your son is a bastard, so he cannot succeed. I don't know if you remember, but Vaemond Valarian got his head cut off because he called him bastard.
But it's
it took
interesting
100
to
some odd
see
years.
how the two strong Targaryen women that we really know, Rhaenyra and Daenerys, both revolutionized the way that people viewed common folk. I think there's something really impactful about that. And even she has her own hesitancy, and it's really Mysaria that puts this plan into action. Rhaenyra's like, well, I'll search the records. She's like, you're not going to find these in a record. These are denied people.
Right. You're thinking too small.
Yes.
Your world is not open to the possibility of there being tons and tons and tons of dragon riders right underneath the bed sheets or the wood piles.
Rhaenyra realizing that lowborn people could do, like one of the things that thought they could do, is also a parallel to her as a woman not being able to be queen. The lowborn people were just lowborn, and they were being held down because they're lowborn. And now she's realizing that she's in the same boat as a woman, being held down just because she's a woman. And I think she also finds some kinship there, which is another reason she allows it and goes ahead with it, even against Jace's wishes.
But I love that because it's this whole, everybody loves an underdog at heart. And we get that through these Targaryen women, is this freedom, this revolution for these underrepresented people.
Yeah, by default, I'm definitely in love with that. The only thing that I will say is that we love this world, this feudalistic world, because it's a time that perhaps will never happen again. And so it's weird to see it unravel, because then we won't get more story like this. Because part of the tension is in the class system.
Yes.
It's stories to us. We're not there. We don't live there. We want to see the chaos. We want to we want to see the tensions. We want to see the conflict. If I sound like there's a part of me that maybe like Jace is hesitant for this move to happen, it's because of that. It's like, oh, okay, things are going to start to run. So then I don't know who's going to stab who in the back. There's a natural bulwark between that happening, but maybe Jace is right. You open the door here, people eventually might end up rushing in and thinking that they have a claim or they can do things that are outside their station, which I know that sounds really classist of me, but again, I like the story. So the second somebody does that, that story starts to become hard to follow or hard to, it just becomes Game of Thrones all over again, basically. Even more fronts. One tiny factoid about Dragonstone that I didn't think of until it was all over. What is Hugh the Hammer?
A blacksmith.
Right. What dragon does he win? Your favorite one.
Oh, Vermithor.
Right. And what is his nickname?
Bronze Fury?
That's right. A little on the nose.
A little bit. Yeah, when they said the name, I was like, it's still ridiculous.
Yep. Well, it's not Vermax.
No.
It sounds like a realtor company.
Yes, it does.
Hugh got Vermithor, who was King Jaehaerys's dragon, and Ulf claimed Silverwing, who was Queen Alysanne's dragon, and they were the king and queen were mated pair. Even though King Jaehaerys wasn't warlike, it's still the Bronze Fury. Of course, he would choose a big manly blacksmith who probably uses bronze. It seemed like a good fit. Silverwing, who would be more like good Queen Alysanne and be very gentle and kind and mothering. If anybody needs mothering, I feel like it's Ulf. But her just nudging him and knocking him down was hilarious, as was his first ride on Silverwing over King's Landing. It reminded me of Aemon's first ride when he rode Vhagar, where he was just terrified at first, and then he suddenly realized the joy and excitement of it.
Talking about commoners not rising beyond their station, saying, I live to serve, kneeling immediately. What I really want to talk about is Corlys's reaction.
Okay, I was a bit confused during this. Is maybe just me being dense. Corlys is like, well, who knows what lineage your mother could have had? Is he like that dense about this?
Well,
he knows they're his kids.
No. He knows that, but he's thinking kind of like what Bela is thinking. I'm Salton Sea. I may be from old Valyria, but we've never ridden dragons.
Okay, I was like, dude, are you not part? And then I was like, well, maybe you just married into the Targaryen family. Wait a second, you have the weird silver hair. Where did that come from? And so then I was like,
from old Valyria.
Yeah.
So they both come from old Valyria, but the Targaryens, not the Valerians, but the Targaryens were the dragon riders.
I got you. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Now they can intermarry, and then the blood gets passed through their kids, and we see that with Bela and Rhaena.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bela specifically. Let's consider this. Bela could have been an outlier because Rhaena exists. It didn't take with her. Maybe the Valerian blood in his mind, that's what won out. And Bela makes it clear by saying, I'm fire and blood, bitch, to him in an earlier episode. I'm not Salton Sea, bitch.
I haven't been paying much attention and I don't remember all the facts, so that's fair.
No, and you wouldn't be faulted either because it is confusing. The whole premise of dragons as we and they knew it seems even more mysterious than it already is. And this maybe goes to the whole class system. For the Targaryens, who are born of Targaryens, this is the natural order of things. The second things step out of the natural order of things, everything becomes a mystery again. This is how it feels to see the dragons as gods. The Targaryens had it easy. They thought they knew, though, this is the natural order of things. But the second things changed, now they have to look at dragons a new way.
Yeah.
They have to see them for the majesty that they are, not the thing they probably took for granted.
Yeah.
So everything's being upset by this.
Okay. I was glad to see that Adam got the dragon and then met with Rhaenyra and then pledged himself to Rhaenyra, because why not? But I am also glad that this conversation happened between Corlys and him, because we are kind of left going, your wife, for one of her dying wishes was for you to fix this. And what I loved about that is that he tells Alan, essentially hints to him like, you could try for a dragon too. Brother did.
They have a very veiled conversation.
It's very veiled.
Everybody seems to know their meaning.
But he says, I am salt
and sea.
And I was like, that's why you're going to be the heir.
Yeah.
That's why you're going to be the heir, because you don't want it. You don't have all these high ambitions and you might mess it up. You are these people. You're this. This is you. These are your people. So you would be the right fit to be the head of Driftmark.
And talk about the theme. You could turn back. So maybe like Allison, Corlys hasn't taken that step forward yet. The showrunners make it a little bit clearer what happened between Corlys and Adam and Corlys and Alan. He is proud of both of them. But we have to expound on that a little bit, because the other side of that is what's obvious. Even though he's proud of them, he can't feel the luxury of expounding on that just yet.
Sure.
Because there's still that part of him that's maybe waiting for an even bigger sign than he's getting right now. Talk about all the people that are like cult leader Rhaenyra taking on faith that this is going to work by throwing a bunch of bastards at this thing.
It's all of these people questioning everything the way that it's always been set up. The male is always the heir. The small folk stay small folk. The only dragon riders are people that are highborn.
Bastards as rulers?
The only person who could take over as your replacement could be your heir, but they have to be your legitimate heir. They can't be bastards. There's all these standards that have been set, and they are questioning every single one of them.
So everybody in their own way has their own mistrustful nature. It's evident in the high noon spaghetti western scene with Rhaenyra and Adam. They're approaching each other very carefully. They're keeping their guns on their holsters, which aka their dragons.
The CGI was incredible, because when the dragons were walking and you were watching them from above, you could see their claws were pushing the sand up. I love the dragons talking to each other. It was like the dragons were fighting a battle too. They were having a little discussion over the heads of their riders. And I also want to say that I just love Emma Darcy's acting. Their facial expressions and the little movements that they make is just amazing. They are one of my favorite actors at the moment. Emma, I love you.
And so I get it. Corlys is the best at this. He is bobbing and weaving through veiled conversation. And of course, Alan is his son and he's doing the same thing, which I love. They're having this equally veiled but mutually understood in meaning conversation, which very well crafted writing and dialogue. But all of this to say is that he's given them a little bit. And I think he does this because he wants them to continue to pursue this path of merit, of doing things with your own hands like you always have, because that makes me proud.
Yeah.
I like the little dribble of approval. Whether this makes a full reversal or whatever, right now, I'm okay with being at this rung. I hope it goes further because there's a part of you that's like, well, adhere to Rhaenys's final, perhaps dying wish. It made it very clear in that episode. She wasn't the one who was going to die in that moment. It was Corlys going off to sea, not naming his heir. He was supposed to be the one.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this weird role reversal. Well, now she was the one who ended it. Now what are you going to do, bud? Again, he's doing what he always has. He thinks he has all the time in the world. And who thought he had all the time in the world too? Viserys.
Yep.
Well, he thought he named his heir and that was it. It wasn't it. Corlys, you got the same. Don't let history repeat itself. Name your heir. There's a war, war of bastards, essentially.
Well, you know what I always say, Dave. Viva la
What if the
revolution.
moon wore pants? Yeah, but if you have a revolution with a leader that is a moon that wears pants, wouldn't that upend the order of things?
I love that the moon wears pants has just become a thing that I'm known for saying.
Of things that are out there that Dave says, and that's the response.
Sometimes we just get too theoretical, and I got to pull us back in. 1, great episode. 2,
yeah,
I'm excited about this next week's. I'm also a little bit worried that we're going to be left with a really big cliffhanger, but that's what happened this last season. So
there is something to say about all this because of course we like where this is going. Yeah, it took a little bit of slaughter of bastards. Yeah, there's some tension between Rhaenyra and Jacaerys. Yeah, we don't know if Rhaena's going to get that dragon. Doesn't seem very obvious, but we like where this is going. And this is the moment, kind of like last season, where we thought everything was going right.
Something's going to happen to make it all go wrong.
I think it's all going to go wrong, just like Game of Thrones wants us to think it's not going to. Before we go, I want to say out loud, I'm actually going to be going on vacation right after this episode airs. That being said, our season 2 finale coverage will be coming a little later than normal, but that's, I hope, okay, because the ladies are going to have quite a few days to digest that final episode and have all their guns and ammo prepared for that final episode while I come in, rushing in, and have to watch the episode because I won't. Bear with us. And if you like what you heard for this episode, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawking-dead. 5 stars and an eggplant is all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us what we missed. Maybe we missed a lot. You never know. But remember to tell us after every single episode. It really counts. Leave your social media handle so we can tag you on that review. We love shouting you out so people can follow you. Perhaps. Good or bad, we will post it. But if you really like what we're doing, consider just following us for free in the meantime at ko-fi.com/squawking-dead or patreon.com/squawking-dead, because when you do, you'll get access to our recording schedules, which are free to attend. It's free to follow. Get on it. And when you do that, you can participate in these pre-recorded episodes, open to the public, sort of, because the only way to get the schedules is to follow us on Ko-fi or Patreon. But consider this. We have a ton more bills to pay, and it feels pretty good to support people whom you can't wait to see and hear next. Throw us a tip. Show us that you love us on Ko-fi. And when you do, you'll get access to our supporter back content for 30 days. That includes the unedited episode recordings in case you can't make these recordings, as well as forever access to Discord. And if you're not satisfied with showing us that meager bit of love that we will appreciate, consider joining a membership tier on either Ko-fi or Patreon, starting with the Walker's tier. That's only $1 a month, and you get even more access to our Discord, more channels, freebies and perks and discounts in the Ko-fi shop. And if you happen to join the Whispers and Survivors tiers, you can get 50% off in our merch store, a free classic t-shirt upon signing up, as well as when you join the Survivors tier, if you decide to join the highest tier, you can show up on these episode breakdowns on camera and mic and tell everybody, not just us, that we're wrong, but what you think alongside us. And of course, Whispers and Survivors get shout outs at the end of every episode. They're showing on the screen right now, and in the audio only podcast after this is all through. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by Bridget. ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. Go follow her there too. And follow her YouTube account, which is youtube.com/punkybrewster. Same spelling. I'm not going to do it again. And we will hopefully see you in the next one with all of us, because we got the time. Rachel, Sharon D, Bridget, me, maybe even you if you join the Survivors tier.
Could
join
be
us
you.
for the season finale discussion in the chat, on screen,
I wish I had been in the conversation with you guys.
and we'll see you then.
Bye.